What's up, everyone? Wanted to do a quick little live, probably a very Morgan centric Big Brother live today. She is the one that over the last 2 days finally went out and gave us her perspective on the game and some of her feelings after the game. My guy, always Johns, asked me to do something about this. Now, I could not watch the entire 3-hour interview of hers, but I tried to watch at least half of what I could. It was a very long-winded appearance on the podcast, and I think that both Morgan and the interviewer were on some bullshit a lot during the thing. Plus, Morgan answers questions the way she plays the game, which is to try and like barrel over you until you either do what she says or believe what she is saying. So I found her her interview to be in a similar style to her gameplay. I like I said, I watched half of it, and I also watched some of her live last night. So I have my opinions on some of what she said. I will say, I don't respect the way Sharon's interview style is. I understand why she plays the everyone's friend role as an interviewer. People who work for larger corporate gigs like US Weekly and People Magazine have to kiss ass. They they and their organizations want to stay in the good graces of the TV shows, even when said TV shows need to be called out more. I dealt with this a lot in the for years in the soap opera industry. I mean, it happens on a larger scale with the news and the government. So of course it happens with the people associated with news outlets and TV shows. So I don't think Sharon was egregious on the show, if that's a word. But she definitely let Morgan get away with some lying about her own game. And I don't know why Morgan needed to lie about some of her game because, in my opinion, Morgan played a really good game in the end. But she was trying to make it seem even better than what it was in that interview. So let's talk about some of my main takeaways in this quick live today. Usually, I like to have a few different topics, but the wells go like going away here with the Big Brother aftermath. There's not a whole lot to talk about anymore. After Morgan, it's just, will Vince ever come out of hiding? He's the last one we need a perspective from, and he's going to keep us waiting because he's calling paparazzi to follow him right now. Anyway, as for Morgan, she did say, definitely one of the main takeaways everyone was talking about is that she and Vince haven't spoken since the finale. And I'd like to believe this is true, but then there were some other parts of the interview and even the live last night that made me question if that was the truth. So we'll get into that. But Morgan made it seem like Vince is the one ghosting her. She said that at the finale, up on the stage, she told Vince that she would always have his back and that he knows where to find her on social media, basically saying the ball is in Vince's court. Now, I mean, this is the way it should be. They both left that house and got all of this talk about their relationship, all of these questions about their relationship. They went on their tour to tell everyone that it was platonic the whole time. And sorry about the damn sirens, but even before leaving the game, Vince and Morgan, thanks to Zingbot, knew about the perception about their relationship being more than platonic, which is why they left the house talking about it being so platonic. But Morgan should have also learned once she left the game that Vince lied that Kelsey was okay with flirting for a game. So I think Morgan, who already felt away by the end of the game with some of their early morning conversations, probably felt even more of a way. Because remember, when Vince was talking about option one and asking about the percentage that Morgan felt about their possible relationship, Morgan said she couldn't dive in because of circumstances that he needed to clear up back home. So my main takeaway is that those statements on Vince about how they are not talking is that the ball is definitely in Vince's court. And that's the way it should be. Vince is the one that had the relationship and is the one that needed to deal with that if he really wanted Morgan or whatever the hell. Back to 1960 said, Morgan is speaking from her perspective, her truth. I feel like parasocial stands want an emotional breakdown or confession. I'm going to get into that. I mean, Morgan was telling her perspective, but she can't stay living in delusion about other stuff that happened in the game. Like if she doesn't want to learn the truth, then that means she wants to live in delusion, like a lot of the players were living when the game was actually going on. So anyway, back to Vince though. Um, Morgan defended Vince's moves a lot, and some of Vince's moves were good, but they were not always good for her game. Well, for his game. Sometimes they were good for her game, but they were not always good for his game. I would say Morgan defended Vince's moves so much over the past 2 days that it made me think that they are talking. And she was lying that they haven't talked since the finale. But I'm still taking her word for it that they haven't talked. Though she was also, I would say, hella excited about a possible returnee season with Vince specifically, someone she is allegedly currently not talking to. So I did find some of her answers about Vince so super excited, so excited to play a game with Vince again, even though they haven't talked for 2 weeks supposedly. Morgan also tried to act like she didn't consider using veto on Vince the round Vince and Keanu tried to convince her to. That was one of the points when she was trying to make her game seem better than it was, even though we all saw it with our own eyes. She had a whole night spiral considering using the veto on Vince. And Sharon made it seem like Vince really wasn't manipulating her to do it. And so my problem with the interview was Morgan still doesn't know a lot about what happened. Let me let this damn siren pass. She still doesn't know a lot about what happened throughout other people's games, and she doesn't want to watch it anytime soon, which is fine because I mean the edit on the TV show sucks anyway. So I don't really think Morgan's going to learn much from the TV show. But I still wish more people, she would allow more people to tell her other parts of the game that were going on so that she doesn't look like someone that is trying to be completely delusional about the rest of the game. Don't shoot the messenger said his girlfriend Kelsey probably laid down the law, no contact with Morgan. I think that is definitely one possibility. Brandon Wall says Morgan acts like a child, someone who got zero attention as a child. I don't know if I'd be that harsh, but I liked her stream more than I liked the interview. I think she brought good energy to her stream. I thought the interview was a weird, let me make myself look perfect. That's kind of what it seemed like to me at times. And it made her sound just uninformed and wrong sometimes on her take on the game overall. And it made her seem like she was either lying or in denial. But I understand she was trying to give it from her point of view. But then when she's saying things that were just wrong, it's like maybe you shouldn't be talking. Maybe you shouldn't be speaking on everything you're speaking about if you want to seem delusional about it. I also do wish, though, that Morgan and Ashley stands would stop trying to stoke flames between the two of them. They're apparently going to be meeting up in LA soon anyway, so there's no problems there between them. I feel like the stands of both want both players' games to be respected. And so when Morgan said during her interview that she was going to change her question during the jury to ask Ashley what moves Ashley actually made. And I mean, winning Final Three and voting Morgan out was probably the main move that Ashley made, though, which would have been a good enough argument alone, in my opinion. But also for Ashley, I get why her stands are defending Ashley, especially with the Riley going out round. Ashley was definitely the one hounding Rachel. to put Riley up. Started actually the week before. I actually just went like an hour ago back to my own recaps during the season to see that Ashley was really putting in the work the week before Rachel's HOH, trying to put a target on Riley's back, which is the way I remember it as well. So Ashley's behind the scenes game will always rank with me, but also people are trying to rewrite Morgan's game like she was just good at comps. And that's not true. She also had a great strategic social game. And like I talked about in updates the entire second half of the season, she had a lot of pull at times with players in the house, especially on different players' HOH. Now, obviously, Vince was the main pull, but she had some pull with others as well. Dina says, poor Morgan. Dina says, you were my biggest move, Morgan. Yeah, Ashley would have just had to answer with that. Back to 1960 says, Morgan should seriously stay away from Ashley because every interaction will end up on the internet. You cannot build real friendships offline with someone like that. You mean like Ashley's going to talk about the interaction? Because Morgan, she's a Twitch streamer, so she's going to always be on the internet going forward as well. So I don't think that's any different. The last thing about the interview I did like kinda. It's a twofold here. I like that she's not fucking with certain cast members because she feels like they got personal on social media about her. And I do feel like she has the right to feel that way, of course. Though some of it is also probably defensive about the whole cheap man's situation and the whole obsessed with Zach situation, kind of obsessed with getting Lauren out of the house situation. She's had these situations that didn't look the best. And yeah, some people that left the game were commenting on that, of course, because they're also watching the show. So, I mean, Morgan's kind of in her feelings with some of what was said about her that I think maybe she will get over in time. Some of it I do understand if they got too personal. Like, I would never speak to Zach again if I was Morgan, because Zach's been super weird about the situation himself. And then he's kind of a hypocrite where his obsession with Lauren is concerned. So, now, like I said, Morgan did do a Twitch stream last night, and it was kind of more of the same. I will say what I got from that was probably most interesting was that Morgan doesn't seem to care that Vince was trying to manipulate her to use the veto on him during Keanu's HOH. She said many times during the stream that it was just a game to her. So it seems okay. She seems okay with anything that Vince did during the game. But I do find it a little odd that she's easily able to put feelings about what Vince did to the side. But she's holding things against Mickey that I don't know what was so personal that happened with Mickey that she's holding against Mickey. She's obviously holding some of the things Jimmy said online against Jimmy, even though Jimmy was just talking about what was happening in the game. I mean, let's keep it real. I don't know. There's a double meaning there with she says it's just a game, but she's holding certain things against certain people, but nothing against Vince. So also kind of odd. Maybe she just wants to stay in denial about Vince. I feel like that's a possibility why she's so easily letting go of things that Vince did, but not others, or not even wanting to learn the truth about others' games. That's the weird part to me. She's definitely Team Vince in this situation. Back to 1960 says it's not the same. Morgan has not been messy. She does not run to the internet to talk about any offline interaction. Ashley does that. I mean, Ashley did that once. Morgan needs to be careful. Ray Rush says, you have to leave my WWE video to come here. Dina says, they all keep saying it was just a game like they were playing Uno. It was a $750,000 game. Correct, Dina. Back to 1960. Jimmy didn't say that until after Morgan like didn't follow him back after their conversation at the finale. Um, Back to 1960 says, "This is why I cannot stand the Morgan commentary. Y'all are being hypocritical." I think I'm being very fair and balanced. I called out Jimmy for all the shit he talks, and I said he went too far with the homophobic comment. But that was after Morgan decided that she wasn't going to speak to Jimmy because what he said prior when she was still in the game. And I just don't think Morgan can say, well, it was just a game, but then hold things about against Jimmy when he was just commentating on the game that was happening. And Morgan being with a man, laying in bed with a man that was in a relationship already. Sarah says, if Morgan and Vinny were just platonic slash friends, had only platonic interactions in the house, why has he followed people like Lauren and Keanu, but not her? She is totally in denial. I feel for her still. Yeah, it's another problem I have with their whole platonic charade. Uh because Vince clearly feels some type of way about following Morgan back. And then on the other side, Morgan's going to the other extreme, defending Vince over everyone. Dina says, old face Jimmy is doing too much. Jimmy always does do too much. That is true. Uh Last thing I'll say on Morgan. I think Morgan had a fun stream overall. Like I said, it was better than the interview. And I personally respect Morgan's ability to not want to associate with most of the cast. But like I just said, like calling it a game, but then making excuses for Vince while being upset with others, it's a fine line. And I don't know if she walked it very well the past 2 days. Um, I do still feel like Morgan was one of the least delusional by the end of the game, but she's come out of the house one of the most delusional. I'm sorry, she has. Everybody's been telling her she played this great game, and she did. But now she wants to make it seem better than it was, and I really do feel like it's to distract from the whole cheat man situation. It's a it's a shame that it became such a big deal, but I mean, it was the best part of Feeds the last few weeks of the game, and also she played into it, so of course it was going to become a thing. And now that she's the one always defending Vince, it's questionable. I feel like Morgan really wants an us versus the world mentality with Vince, but if they're not even talking allegedly, I don't really understand the point of wanting that. Sarah says, call me Rachel because I love me some Jimmy. I mean, I do like when Jimmy gets messy too. Dina says, Ava's back in lace and smoking cigarettes. What's up, Arno Stew? Ashley said, I'm so sad. I completely missed her Twitch stream. Anyone know where I can I don't know where you can watch it. I only caught some of it myself. Thank you, Arno, for watching. Sarah says, Morgan's revisionist history is so on brand for her, though. Yeah, I hope that Morgan can come to a spot where she can accept that the game she played was pretty good, but she needs to come to a place and accept that her and Vince's relationship, it was, first of all, people were going to give commentary on it. Like, how could were they not? Because it was the main thing on the feeds the final few weeks of the game, and on the episodes too, some of the final few weeks of the game. So yeah, people were going to comment on it. If she wants to feel some kind of way with some of the others on the cast, she can. But I do find it a little delusional that she can't call out Vince for a lot of his faults while playing the game, but she wants to call out some people's faults for their commentary on social media. And I will give Morgan this. She doesn't actually talk shit. I mean, she doesn't go, she on the interview, on the stream, she didn't like talk shit about all the other people that talk shit about her. So at least she's not being a hypocrite there, where she's mad at people for giving this commentary on her or her and Vince's relationship, but she's not going around talking shit about others either. Tammy says Morgan is just jelly. Ashley says, yep. And they basically live like a married couple for over 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks of them being all over each other and being really emotionally involved, not just physically all up on each other. I mean, if they are no contact, I assume it does have to be a little weird and a little hard to go from all that contact for weeks to nothing. Um, so if there are actually no contact and Morgan's telling the truth there, then Vince is clearly no surprise. Vince is clearly playing games again. And I think that's probably the next time I'll be able to give any Big Brother commentary is if Vince finally decides to come out of hiding. He's another one that needs to accept his part that he played in the Cheat Man storyline if he wants to actually talk about his game. I feel like that's the real reason why Vince and Morgan aren't all over social media, although Morgan is all over social media. She's just not, doing messy lives or anything like that, but she is still all over social media. But I think that's the reason that they have been apprehensive about talking about their games is because they do have to give this revisionist history and try and avoid talking about the cheat mans or just continue to play up the platonic charade. Dina says, well, let's see. Tammy says, I watched her with Sharon Tharp and she acted like she carried Ashley the whole game, which was totally not true. Ashley beat her fair and square. Congrats to Ashley. Yeah, and I think that was part of the reason why Morgan and Ashley stands were going at it again. I think that I kind of get Morgan's perspective on Ashley. There were times in the game where Morgan went to bat for Ashley, but that's also a sign of Ashley's good game, like I've talked about in the past. If you have people going to bat for you to keep you in the game, well, that means you're doing something pretty great socially. Dina says Callie is out of hiding. Everyone's come out of hiding except Vince so far that I've seen. Trina says, what makes me think that the relationship was not platonic was how she responds to the questions about option one, saying that Vince should be the one to answer that. Correct. Very good point, Trina. Saying that Vince is the one that needs to answer questions about option one kind of tells us that option one was about them and their potential relationship outside of the show. And it isn't, I mean, Vince was the one bringing up option one, so he is the one that should talk about it and actually answer the question. Truthfully, do I think he ever will? Not really. I'm sure if Vince does come out of hiding, it will probably be a Sharon interview, which means no pushback. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I gotta get going though. But I did, since some of you asked for it, I had to give my thoughts on Morgan's commentary over the past 2 days. I do want to say I still liked Morgan's game. I still think she's going to be great doing her Twitch streams. I do wish she would actually at least acknowledge or learn other parts of the game that were happening around her so that we don't have to sit here and call her out for looking a little delusional about her game because she did play a great game, but you don't have to make it seem even better than it actually was to try and distract us from the cheap mans. And I think that is what Morgan and probably Vince, if he ever comes out of hiding, will keep doing for now. Anyway, thank y'all.